Sentinels, Leviathan, Vitality, EDG, Team Heretics, and even DRX, but also many others are doing this utility wrong. And I'm here to tell you how to fix this stuff for your own ranked games. Today's episode is focused on Viper on Icebox and how to play this agent efficiently. Let's go. Today's episode is sponsored by Elgato. Go to elgato.com for the newest hardware for streamers, use the link from the description below and the code for 5% off. Thank you Elgato for sponsoring the stream. I have been talking about this topic consistently on the desk at VCT AMEA and I still see it happening. This is a round from champions between Team Heretics and DRX and it showcases perfectly of what we're gonna be fixing. So you see this Viper wall over here? Everyone is using it. Literally every single team. Right? And everyone in ranked, because everyone thinks that this wall is good. But I'm here to tell you why it's wrong and how it should be fixed. Now, when we're attacking Icebox on A side, we have to focus on a few things, right? Obviously, the attacker team wants to get to this site, right? And then plan in this position or this position or this position. But before you get to that site, you need to breach the first phase of the of this A side, which is the pipes area and the king area. This is where the defenders are setting up the Viper wall to stop those phases in between them, so it's not easy to just go in one tempo from the phase 1 to phase 2. Now the problem is that this wall leaves a lot of space on king, and let's gonna play this we're gonna play this round and see how this affects Team Heretics. As you can see, Buzz goes directly on top of king and now is set up as essentially as a turret, like a killjoy turret but with an actual gun. Now there's also a problem that this Viper wall creates a one-way over here that a lot of people should know, but somehow it still affects the game. So now we have a top player on this king area that is just chilling because he's just waiting for the wall to go down, and now he has a superior position because of the high ground and he has a plethora of targets to choose from. The only thing that he is exposed to is the rafters over here, but once the wall drops down, well, that's where you trust your team, that your team is taking the space and now they're clearing the rafters and the player on the king is not affected by the players on site. Let's play it again. This is a good clear vision of what Buzz is doing, just waiting for it. And now we're gonna have the execution with the Viper, with the KO ultimate. But you can see that already Buzz got a kill on Rians, who didn't anticipate that someone can be on top of king. But that's not only that. Buzz was just one player abusing that position, and we're gonna see another one exactly in the same position because the attackers recognize that it's a superior position to be in. And that's where the one-way also kicks in. Here we have Foxy literally being in the same position. You can see the one-way over here. Now, that's also kind of funny because this is one of those instances when playing on lower details on the graphic will actually make a small difference because this gas is not as prevalent on the lower details than the higher ones. On the higher ones you can still see through, but it's not perfect. As you can see here, this is high detail settings because we're watching the production, but the player has low settings, so he sees Boo here very clearly. Foxy just gets that kill easily, which spectators maybe didn't pay attention too much, right? Because they were like, oh, there's nothing to see there. But yeah, so you can clearly see how Foxy abused this position with his Viper wall. Now, how do we fix this? So how do we fix this? We stand in this corner over here. Now we look into this direction. The wall over here has a small line. You can see this dark line between the steel plates. So now we put our Viper fuel counter that says 100 over here on this wall, and you can touch the black line with the 0 from the 100 over here. Right, so now when you have that, you just left click, you put the wall on king like this, and this just fixes it. That's essentially it. So it doesn't look that much different when you see it from here, right? It's like it's almost the same, but it's not exactly the same. Why? So as you can see here, the space that the attackers will have on king is not much. So now when the attackers would like to take the space on the king, they don't have a lot of space. If someone takes the rope, right, and wants to go over here, well, how do I jump on this without crossing the Viper wall? You have to have very precise movement to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna stick through the Viper wall. You get most likely accidentally blinded if you didn't go fully. And if you did go fully, that means that you went through this Viper wall alone towards the defenders, and now you're exposed with the DK from the Viper wall and no help from your teammates, because your teammates are stuck and you are single-handedly just being like, you're just poking out of the Viper wall to the defenders standing on site and trying to kill you. And also another thing, it also fixes the one way, because now when you're standing on top of King, you don't see the CT. There's no one way over here. You can, like, if you're incredibly clever, you can stand like this, like pixel perfect, and see CT, but that requires, again, incredibly precise movement. And if you just fail, then you just jump down, deal fall damage to yourself, so that's also not good. But in general, even if you stand like this to see CT because of the pixel like walk here, then you're fully exposed to the player over here. And it's also one way in this position where a defender can just literally pre-fire you every single time. So not only this helps you holding the site, because now when you're holding the site, you have very like, you give out very little space to the attackers. There's also an easy way to just shoot people who are standing in those positions, because there's not many space that, like, not much space that you can, you know, stand at. So it's easy to pre-fire them, right? Because now when you stand on screens and if you're not smoked over here, then you have a clear position where to pre-fire when someone's on top of it. And when you stand on Jenny, when you literally know that someone took the rope towards King, he's gonna just stand over here in that position. There's nowhere else you can go. Like, that's it. It's easy pre-fire. And if you have a Phantom, that's easy kill, because they don't even know where you're shooting from. And when you're doing a retake, this wall allows you to actually clear King without being like left out, right? Because when with the other Viper wall, which was here, essentially the attackers and postman can still stand like Foxy9 on King, and you have to go into that one way, which is so risky. But also when you go, you are not clearing King at all. With this Viper wall, you're able to clear King, so you're able to just clear backside, clear Jenny, and now you're able to clear King and have your own one way for the attacker standing on top of King, if there is one. And that essentially gives you the first phase of the retake to go on site. I would really love to see if people would start using this wall, like once this gets out, and maybe some people will take a look at it, because I do think it's incredibly efficient at dividing the attackers into like potentially smaller pieces, and also making your just hold a little bit more aggressive. Because one of the biggest problems of Icebox on A is the fact that the defenders are kinda like on the mercy of the attackers, if they are pushing or not. And here you can be a little bit more aggressive just because you just literally move the Viper wall by a meter, right? For your, you know, I don't know how much would that be in the freedom units, but if you're from USA, well, let me know in the comments. Now let's go to another fix on Icebox. All right, now the second thing that we want to fix is not exactly something that you will find in pro play, at least I don't see it often happening, so it's not a problem because someone doesn't know, but it's happening so much in rank that it just pisses me off. So when people smoke mid, that can be a Viper, it can be an Omen, Clove, Brimstone, whatever, they will do it almost every single time wrong. So they will put like the smoke over here and not cover the under passage like correctly. Now there's a gap here and someone can still see you, right? Or they will put the smoke to like close to the attackers like here, and now there's gonna be a gap from the other side, and the player from Boiler will see that there's, you know, there's a gap over here and no one is crossing to orange. You want to cover this perfectly, and I'm here to tell you the why. Not why, how. All right, so we stand on mid, we go to the barrier, and it's incredibly easy. Incredibly easy. Is just hard to like understand. You see this wall and you see the container, the blue container, those two edges, the corner of this wall and the container edge here, we just align together. So you just press shift and you just slowly walk like this till they align, like those two touch like this, and now you set good to go. Now you take the crosser, you see this container over here, like I put my cursor like this and just put it down so it's on this line like this, right? Now we just pick up the smoke, throw it on mid, and it's in perfect spot because it covers the under the passage, covers boiler, covers the kitchen window, and from the other side can't see anything. Can't see if someone is crossing to kitchen, can't see if someone is crossing to orange. But not only that, now we also fixed one issue that I didn't even speak about, and that is giving space to the attacker. Because when you're lurking through mid and you want to go towards B side, typically people like even do the smoke and it ends here, and you just literally just peeking out like this. With this smoke, you have space. You can peek out of the smoke and you can fight the player on B side without being exposed to kitchen. And that is incredibly important when you're lurking. When you're attacking, doing like a split, that's not much of a problem because you just try to explode. So actually putting the smoke closer here would be preferable, or even like putting it over here, but that's not possible because then there's a gap on mid. But here, when you're lurking, you're able to just peek out, take those gunfights, isolate the angles, and have more control of your actions. All right, now let's fix the B wall. At a pro level, most of it is done being correctly, but now on ranked, again, absolutely butchered. So what do? We stand in this corner over here, and I have two walls for you. First, you see this line on the barrier over here that is happening over here? It's also visible when the details are on low, so that's not a problem. You will always see this line over here. You put your crosshair on the left side of the wall like this. And now, when you actually go to site, you have almost everything covered when it comes to the most obvious spots, right? The wall covers everything over here, including the top side. So the player from top side cannot see you when you're planting. He can still spam you. So it's important to pre-fire some of the angles over here. When you're going to the side and someone is meant to plant, well, you probably would like to shoot few bullets over here, shoot few bullets over here. And remember that someone can still stand on this corner. It's important still to be aware, not just blindly just start planting just because the wall is up. That's not how you play this game, right? But also remember that you put this wall up when your team is at this space. Don't put it earlier on. You're gonna waste fuel. You need to activate the wall before the teams are peeking through this corner, before the player goes like this. The wall needs to be up, but also the wall cannot be up too early, because when the team is still fighting for this spot over here and just trying to like clear for the first phase of yellow, this wall needs to be put on later. It's very important, right? So when typically when I attack, round starts, I put up the wall instantly, activate it to deny the early info for the player standing on yellow, so he doesn't know if anyone crosses, and then I instantly turn it off. So the players can like either go forward and fight for the yellow, and the yellow player is distracted because maybe someone crossed already. But if we play, even if I play like A or something, I still put that wall up because I always want to deny info for the defender on B. Now, there's a second wall that I like to use for this side over here, and I'll show you. It's very similar, but I show you a small thing that you can take advantage of. So you stand in the same corner over here, and you almost do the same lineup. But this time, you put in the crosser on the right side of this barrier line, like this. So this was the previous lineup. This is the other lineup. Yeah, I know. Not much of a difference, right? But there's a difference on site. So now when we go to site and we activate the wall before we go, look what is going to happen. See this? This creates a small pocket of opportunity, because now you have a small one-way. If you take yellow, like that, maybe people will be aware of that, right? Someone can be stupid also to just stand in this position and be isolated. But also, what's very important, now the player who is planting is most likely not gonna be spammed by someone standing here. You don't want to use this always, and you don't want to, like, definitely, you want to communicate this to your teammates that this gonna be happening. But it's a very, very fun way of playing a Viper wall a little bit differently as well. And on top of that, I want to give you one advice for ranked. Always do this wall at the beginning of the round on B side. The wall on A side is not that important. You need to have the B wall because in case you pivot and you have to go from A to B, attacking this side without a wall is incredibly tough. So in like 99% of rounds that I play on attack, I'm using the Viper wall on B to condition my enemies, always deny the early info for the B green position, and making sure that we have a potential pivot utility when we go to B side. The Viper wall on A is not that important. And why? Well, I'll show you in the next clip. I see many people using this wall on attack on A. So in my previous tip, I told you to always wall B, right? And I'll show you why right now, because many people use this wall on A side to cover screens and CT. But when you start thinking about it, this wall doesn't really have a lot of impact. It essentially covers only one angle, which is the screen over here. That's it. There's nothing else happening, because when you go to side, like going from here to here is literally like the smallest gap that you can just disrupt with almost anything, right? And it's not that impactful. Maybe there's even like another piece of utility they can use to like cover your passage over here, like a jet smoke or something, right? And the player on screens is just being covered for the duration of the wall, but then the wall goes down and you can still stand there, right? So this doesn't really give you much impact when it comes to like attacking this side, and you should be using your wall on B side because of that to potential pivot. Because you can still use your Viper smoke on mid, you can still use Viper smoke on A as well if you don't want to cover mid, but the wall should always be on B. Unless you have literally a call, whatever happens, we go 5 players A, then you can consider using this wall on A, but that's it. But then you also have to fix it, and I'll show you how. But one more thing that also annoys me, many people will use the argument, oh, I'm using the Viper wall like this to cover this passage so we're not being seen when someone is on the Jenny over here. Now, the thing is, that happens a lot. I see people standing here with an operator getting 3 kills because someone just peeks out of this at the beginning of the round and just dies, right? So there's one small fix in ranked that you should apply. You go as an attacker on the ramp always, and you just jump down on the bottom. So you're never exposed to the player from Jenny to here. That's it. You don't have to be ever in this position. Like, you will die. Don't be that person that dies when you're going like this. Oh, but you know, I can hug the corner and then I'm barely visible. And yeah, a good player will still kill you. So just don't give them the chance. Always go belt and drop down, right? If you attack A side as a team and you're still making, like, you're making a lot of noise, it doesn't really matter if you jump down and make noise over here. So how do we fix now the Viper wall to make it, if we want to really do it on A side, how do we make it better? Because you can. So the trick, what I want to show you how to make this wall more efficient for the attackers, is to angle it either left or right. So what I mean by that is when you do the wall, you don't do it as a straight line like this, right? But you want to angle it to force your opponent to make a reaction. So I typically would use it this way. I either use it like this, so to angle the screens in half and force my opponent into standing either on this part of the screen and be forced out in the open where he's exposed and affected most likely by the DK because he's going back and forth like this, right? And if we attack it and he's standing out here, that means that he can actually be killed before we go to site, which is good, right? Or he's gonna be standing behind the wall on this spot and it's easier to pre-fire because there's not much space. You can do it the other way around as well. So you use it this way, something like this. You don't have to be precise. It's about knowing what you want to achieve with it, right? And now, when the player is standing on top of screens, he's either standing here and completely blinded, right, and affected by the DK, or he's standing out again out in the open and able to get killed, which is your goal as an attacker on A side. You want to get early kills as as early as possible before you go to site. But if there's no one standing over here, then you literally know what to pre-fire, because the opponent can only stand in like those two angles over here. So once he stands over here and you go to Jenny, now you can just spam this, and you probably will have a kill because of the small space that you leave to the opponents on the screen. So now, if you're not using your Viper Orb on mid, because you have a double controller, for example, and you can ask someone else to use the smoke on mid instead of you, that you should be doing now every time, you can use your orb on A. And it's very simple, because you stand in this corner, the barrier drops, you're looking into this direction over here, like this, and now you press Viper Orb, you do little step forward, like this, and you throw it. It requires a little bit of practice, but it lands over here on this spot. It covers default, it covers the plant also for rope, so you can like plant over here, right? And the opponent will either be in the smoke, behind the smoke, in a very small position, because he cannot be in anything else than this, right? And you can also pre-fire the corner in Jenny, like here, because now the person here doesn't know what's going on site. The person from Rafters cannot see what's happening on Belt, which is very important. They can still see what's happening over here from like this angle, but that's not really that important. But it denies the early info, and it serves the purpose, of course, in post plant for default as well. And this is all with one smoke. You're able now to just scale up towards the side with such an incredibly valuable piece of utility that I don't know how is it possible that people are not using this more often. And also on top of that, with this Viper smoke, you're actually able to utilize an incredibly valuable ultimate. Why with this orb? Well, because this orb allows you to scale up to this spot, and you can stand now here and ult from here. You can also do that without the smoke, but my point is that this smoke helps you to get to this point. So now, when you're standing on site, please, for the love of God, only use this ultimate. And I kid you not, this is not even being used at pro play that often. You just stand over here, you look into this direction, nothing else. Just look into this direction, like just look into the corner of the site. You ult, and the entire site is covered, but you create a one-way for Rafters. So when opponents are standing like here, they're not affected by the decay from the Viper pit, but what happens, you can see their legs. Like, it's incredibly important. Like, you can see their legs. They're gonna be like, you know, red thingies just sticking out like sore thumbs, just because you look into this direction. And you can see many players are doing something like this. And now it doesn't create a one-way, or even if it does create a small portion of one-way over here, it doesn't cover exactly here, doesn't cover here, there's a gap here. That's happening in ranked so often. So please, for the love of God, stand here, look into the corner, ult like this. And this creates the most powerful ultimate on Viper A side that you can ever do. It's almost impossible to retake, because now you can only go from here, here, or here. And if you ever go on Rafters, you just always die. I cannot tell you how many kills that I have gotten, like hundreds of kills, right because of this wall here. Sorry, because of this one way on Rafters. It's incredibly valuable. Thanks for watching the video. Consider liking and subscribing. If you have any comments, leave a reply below. I'm definitely gonna answer it. If you have a question about any Valorant knowledge, also gonna be happy to answer to you. And share the video with anyone who would like to learn this stuff and you know, just be better at the game. Bye bye, see you next time.